Good morning, everybody. Today, I bring you Fighter. Most importantly, my thoughts about Fighter and my general feelings towards playing this game. You see, I've been playing this game for a very long time, and I've really wanted to do some two-handed fighter action. Even before the strike-through changes, I was thinking, man, get a half-orc, get that instant crit from Raging Crush, get that instant crit from Deadly Strike out of Kensai, get a big two-handed weapon, then it doesn't matter what your critical threat range is. Stack on critical multiplier, and bing bang boom, hit a monster for 100,000 damage. How cool is that? The short answer is very cool, but the long answer is a little bit more complicated. This character was awesome to level with. Super fast, super high damage, just crushed every single thing in my way because strike through and two-handed weapons are awesome, and Fighter gives you a great shell to do that, giving you lots of combat option feats to take monsters down, like tripping and stunning, as well as a ton of damage from the Kensai tree and then also from the half-orc tree. However, it was only pretty easy to level because I was able to consistently group with people who were able to heal me. And that's the big caveat about playing Fighter. Fighter is a class, like a few others, that really can't heal itself in any meaningful way. And so you kind of need to build in some alternative healing method. Do you bring a hireling? Do you have scrolls? Do you just drink potions fruitlessly for a long time? And this causes a problem. For the majority of the time playing against regular monsters, your character won't even take too much damage. You've got a lot of crowd control effects, you get in people's faces, you knock them down, they can't do anything, all is good. But Reapers or Spellcasters or champions with damage over time effects will just hit you once or twice and all of a sudden, you're at half health, and you really gotta heal. This lack of self-healing just slows down the experience if you don't have any way to do it effectively. Aasimar can help alleviate this a little bit if you happen to be an Aasimar fighter. Picking up Human or Aasimar for a ton of additional healing amplification, again, to make this problem easier, is not too bad either. Or heck, even playing as a halfling and grabbing the Dragon Mark of House Jarasco to keep healing yourself as you go through the game is not a bad idea. But the problem is that it's not consistent, and you're always going to run into this issue where at some point your character is going to be low on health and you got to sit there and try to scroll yourself or hope you have a cleric hireling, or if nobody in your group is able to heal you, just kind of shrine doggedly and try to keep yourself alive. Now, on normal, hard, and elite, this isn't too much of a problem. Scrolls can do a pretty good job, and there are lots of ways to get increased power from wand and scroll mastery. You can even just stack a whole bunch of healing amplifications so your scrolls are more effective, and it's great. But I played mostly on Reaper mode, and this character leveled for the most part on Reaper 3 to Reaper 4. Crushing monsters felt great, but self-healing on Reaper 4 is a no-go. You're only healing yourself for, at best, 30% of the actual healing, and so it just takes forever. This problem is exacerbated once you get to epics, where you're easily clearing 2,000 hit points on a character like this, and your methods of healing are exactly the same. You could, in theory, maybe use something like Rejuvenation Cocoon to heal yourself, but since the build restrictions are kinda tight, you don't have space to throw in a devotion item to get the extra heals. And also, since it's only 150 point shield, if it's in combat, your Rejuvenation Cocoon is gonna come down. So what ended up happening is this character build that I've wanted to play for a really long time, that I was so excited to go and experiment and try out and smash some monsters. Well, I found that if the group that I was in didn't have somebody who was capable of doing the healing, I just felt this stress at the back of my mind. Like I didn't really want to play. I don't even know how to describe it. I didn't want to log into the game and play this character because I was worried that, well, if I can't find somebody who can heal me in a group, I guess I'm not going to be playing this character. Now, this isn't entirely representative. As I said, there are ways you can build into Fighter to add a little bit of self-healing, to add ways to make your character have some more sustain. But something that I've been building towards and been growing more accustomed to, especially since playing my Sorcerer life, has been the idea of getting to level 30 and then saying, oh, I want to do this quest. I'm going to put this quest on Reaper whatever and start clearing through it, and if anybody wants to join me, they can join me, but because my character can self-heal, I don't have to worry about having a really tight or appropriate group. And with the Fighter, I just didn't really get that same feeling. So while I wanted to fully gear it and kind of go through all of the details, I just didn't with this character. I reincarnated out of it a little bit hastily because it made me not want to play the game, even though the actual combat was fun. And when I could get into a group with somebody who was doing any type of supportive capacity, the character feels amazing. You just run ahead, your top kills, you're smashing everything. It feels great. It just, for some reason, maybe I'm learning more about myself and my experience with this game and how I like to play it, but there's something about the lack of self-sustain that just made me stressed and made me not even want to touch the game. And that's not a good feeling. So I decided to reincarnate out of it into something new that not only has more self-sustain, but is also something exciting that I think a lot of you will be interested in, since it is a rehashing of something I've already done before. Now, that being said, this isn't me saying that you shouldn't play Fighter. Fighter is a fantastic class and a good addition to any party. And as I said, the damage was crazy. Hitting monsters for 100,000 is a success. It's a good idea. And if you want to do that, you should definitely pick this character, because you will be able to do that. This character focuses mostly on using the Kensai tree, the falconry tree, and the half-orc tree, with pretty much nothing else. All damage. The half-orc tree gives you extra two-handed damage, helplessness damage, and the ability to auto-crit. The Kensai tree gives you all of your damage, and the falconry tree gives you even more helplessness damage, as well as the ability to reduce fortification on monsters, so you can crit them, and you don't need to use too many armor penetration items. This character was really, really strong, and just absolutely destroyed and smashed everything, and if you're the kind of player who plays somewhere between normal and elite, you'll have no worries soloing or leveling through the game, and if you're going to be playing on anything higher than that, as long as you have somebody in your group who's willing to throw a couple cures into you, that will be a very fast group because Fighter just rips monsters in half. So if you want to be tearing every single thing apart at will, let me pass it off to me, who will tell you how to explain how to do it. So how exactly do you go about building this character? Well, I'm not taking this character into super duper endgame. I can tell you that it worked pretty well, so if it's something that you want to do, you can. This worked reasonably well in Reaper 7, even though I didn't have most of the gear, so once you actually have them, you'll be good. To get started with this character, I'm a half-orc and I'm a fighter, so I put all my points into strength the entire time. I also have a bunch of constitution, and that's pretty much it. I made sure I'd have a little bit of intelligence so I could take skills, which didn't really prove to be that necessary, but it's just something you can do. Your defensive stats will become a lot higher than mine if you actually wear a magic resistance rating item, of which the final build will have 2. So your magic resistance rating will be around 130, and your physical resistance rating will be much higher than this, because my stats are low because I don't have any items. I believe I'm still wearing heroic gear, so that's why we're there. As far as skills go, it doesn't really matter. I took Intimidate so I could intimidate monsters while leveling, and it's also good for your Lock Bash, which you can use as a half-orc. But other than that, Intimidate, use Magic Device are the main important things. I then maxed out Swim because I had more points, and I maxed out Balance because I had more points. But Intimidate and UMD is probably where I would stop. You don't need anything more than that afterwards. As far as feats go, throughout the entire leveling process, it's important to take pretty much every fighter feat. So specific fighter feats, you have the weapon specialization, greater weapon specialization, greater weapon focus, and superior weapon focus feats. You have to take all of these. Well, actually, it's not true. You don't have to take superior weapon focus, but I did because it gives more melee power. But you do have to take pretty much all of the weapon focus, slashing, and weapon specialization feats to get access to your enhancement tree. I also decided to take the heavy armor champion, heavy armor combatant, and heavy armor master to get more physical resistance rating and magic resistance rating while wearing heavy armor. This means that you don't actually have to use a stalwart defender tree, which is pretty cool because you get a lot of those bonuses. Now, granted, stalwart defender does stack with this, but I didn't want to get the extra aggro, so I didn't do that. And then only take Tactical Master and Tactical Supremacy. The other 2 feats are good for +2 and +4 to tactical DCs, but really 14's enough. You should be able to get by. Outside of that, I've also got Power Attack and Improved Critical Slashing. I thought it would take, and Stunning Blow. I thought it would take maybe like Sunder or Trip, like Improved Sunder or something, or go with the Combat Expertise for Improved Trip. I didn't end up doing that because it didn't end up being very good, so I didn't need to do that. And then other than that, the combat style feats, all the two-handed fighting feats, and then for epics, it's pretty basic. Overwhelming critical, epic damage reduction, Sound of Arborea. I took Blinding Speed simply because I didn't want to get an augment, because I wasn't taking this character to like super duper endgame. But if you have access to a augment of swiftness, which you can find in the wild or buy in the DDO store, it replaces Blinding Speed entirely, or if you cast the spell Haste, so just think about that. For spells, I'm a fighter, so let's just skip that section. And then for the enhancement tree, this character I ended up using Falconry, Kensai, and Half-Orc. Basically, if you don't have as many points as I do, like 94, and you have to cut 14 points out of somewhere, you're essentially just cutting most of your points out of Falconry and just taking Falconry for the 5% bonus hit points, because the stuff in Half-Orc is really good and the stuff in Kensai is really good. I started out spending all my points in Falconry, or sorry, not Falconry, Kensai and Half-Orc. I only started putting points in Falconry after I had finished having, like, essentially my 41 and my 22 here in Half-Orc. In Half-Orc, we pick up all the nice cores for the additional strength. You get the extra damage, hit and damage chance with two-handed weapons from the Orcish weapon training. Lock Bash is nice just for leveling. I have reconnected with the chat server, that's cool. Lock Bash is good for leveling because it allows you to essentially just, open doors with your Intimidate check, which just gives you more loot while you're playing the game. And then finally, Raging Crush is an attack that lets you automatically critically hit. And so with Raging Crush and Deadly Strike that you both get out of the Half-Orc and Kensai tree, you get 2 attacks in a row that are automatic critical strikes, which means using a weapon like a Great Axe, which doesn't have as high critical threat range but has a good multiplier, allows that to happen, which is kind of cool. Speaking of which, then yeah, we got all this stuff. That's kind of neat. We got the the attacks out of Kensai. Kensai is pretty straightforward. I don't take the tactics DCs because right now just in town I have 108 dire charge and a 88 stunning blow. However, you can use Power Surge from Kensai, and if you happen to have as many points as I do, you can grab Deadly Instinct here to bring your DCs even higher. Putting those two together, picking up a dire charge of 120 and then a stunning blow of 100, getting additional DCs and stuff if you happen to be playing in Reaper mode. And again, once you actually have the gear, this character, my strength is 82 right now. I don't have Insightful or Quality, both of which I will have on this character build once I'm done. Or once you're done if you actually follow the whole thing, which would bring you up to around 97. If you don't have like the tomes and past lives that I do, that brings you to around 90 or like 88. Somewhere between 88 and 90. And that's still better than what I have, so you'd have even higher stats once you actually get the gear. As far as why we put points in Falconry, I got a lot of questions about this when we're leveling. There's a couple of reasons. Number one, 5% health is 5% health, so you can't say no to that. Number two, 30% helplessness damage is pretty good. Number three, Deadly Instinct allows you to get extra stats based off of your Wisdom, extra damage, and DCs. Now, I don't have any Wisdom items on. If I did, this would be even better. What you would ideally do is have a Wisdom swap. So you'd have an item you put on that gives you increased Wisdom. You know, something that gives you like a plus 22. Throw on, and then hit the Deadly Instinct, then swap it off. It lasts for 2 minutes, so it's not that cumbersome to keep up. It's not too bad. Deadly Instinct for the helplessness damage. And then finally, you want to pick up Exposed Weakness. Exposed Weakness, attacks from a Hunting Bird also reduce your target's fortification by 50%. I don't have a lot of fortification penetration, so as you can see here, my fortification bypass is only 22%. It will be higher when you wear the proper item set, but right now, that's all I have. So, what I ended up doing is, with this character, use a combination of Shattering Strike, which you get out of the Kensai tree for 15% fortification loss, plus Strike at the Heart to improve destruction, so you remove 1% fortification every time you hit a monster, and then finally the Exposed Weakness for another 50%. So all in all, you're able to remove 80% fortification from monsters, which means you can critically strike guys pretty consistently, especially since this character would end up with somewhere around like, I don't know, probably like 55% fortification penetration just automatically. So it works out pretty well. And it's great for bosses because it helps out all your allies as well. Next, let's go to the actual Epic Destinies. So this character, I was playing in Fury of the Wild. You can make an argument for whether you want to play it in Fate Singer if you want like different types of burst damage, or Dreadnought if you want more consistent damage. For me, I went with Fury for a couple of reasons. Number one, Adrenaline Overload is really fun. Hitting monsters for like 70,000 damage just feels good. And when you're playing in like Reaper 10, I did a bunch of Reaper 10s with this character. Being able to walk up to any monster and be able to kill it, because I have access to Adrenaline Overload and Overwhelming Force, so monsters are perma-stunned essentially when I fight them, made this character extremely potent. So I never needed to worry specifically about like, oh, am I using like the right effects? Am I like gonna get my stun off? Is it gonna land because it's only 108 DC on Reaper 10? Maybe it's not gonna land. That was a non-problem because this has no save. And it causes the monsters to be helpless as well, allowing you to take out pretty much whatever you want. This also works on Reapers, except for Doom Reapers, so Doom Reapers are a little bit slow to chunk down with this character, although if you have a lot of adrenaline charges, you can just adrenaline a few times and take care of it. But overall, it was really fun to play. It's important to note I use Boulder's Might. Boulder's Might is a frontal cleave, although it doesn't say that, and it's also +2 critical multiplier on an attack. So by having this skill, you essentially just press this, you use your Adrenaline Overload, and then Boulder's Might, and then all of a sudden, the monster that is in front of you is taking an attack that, since I already have ×4 critical multiplier on my weapon, turns into a ×6, which then gets multiplied by 4 because of the Adrenaline Overload, so it's like a ×24 crit, and they pretty much instantly die. Very, very satisfying. It's important to note that if you use Adrenaline with the cleave attack, the Adrenaline effect only affects the first monster that you hit. Same with Strike Through, it's only the first monster that you hit, it's not all of the monsters, so keep that in mind when you're playing this type of character. If you were to play it in Legendary Dreadnought, essentially, you would just, instead of taking Pulverizer, you would take Headsman's Chop. Instead of taking Action Boost Haste, you wouldn't take that at all. You'd probably just take more Strength somewhere else, or maybe even like Improved Power Attack, or Momentum Swing for an extra high critical threat range attack. It's important to note that Momentum Swing is reset by Boulder's Might, so that's also pretty good. But yeah, you could do that as well. And then finally, again, Fate Singer. You essentially just take Strength instead of Charisma here, grab Marshal him, and then you also want to have Turn of the Tide for the high hit damage. So those are kind of your different options. The last one is Divine Crusader, which is the worst option by a large margin. But it does give you this effect, no remorse. Whenever an enemy who is recently affected by your aura of purification is slain, nearby allies are healed for positive energy equal to the CR of the slain enemy, which means basically if you kill guys, you get health back, which makes it a lot easier for soloing, especially if you're doing like low-level soloing and leveling through the process. You don't need to level as a Fury of the Wild. You can level as Divine Crusader and then swap to Fury once you feel comfortable. So Divine Crusader is really good for that. It's not the best endgame epic Destiny, and it's not the best for doing the highest Reaper 10 content, but for keeping yourself alive in pretty much every style of content, that's where Divine Crusader really shines. Getting both the ability to heal yourself through stuff like Consecration, or as I said, you just kill monsters and you get your health back, which is pretty sweet. And since you get additional healing amp from the tree as well, it's just pretty helpful. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I'd go into details about the items, but almost every item I'm wearing is wrong. I just literally threw on what I could. Lionheart ring. Ooh, there's a heroic Flightfoot Greaves. That's kind of cool. Braided cut cord. Yeah, that doesn't even work. So yeah, so this character is wearing all of the wrong items. I will have a actual full item set if you want to play through it yourself. The items, I don't think there's anything crazy or too many weird things. As far as the most important thing you're going to have to decide for yourself is like the weapon. I have Torn because it's the weapon that I have. The best weapon for this type of character is either Basmarath or Tale of Sulamades. If you decide to play this character as a Fury of the Wild, I think that Basmarath is probably the best weapon since you have so many guaranteed crits that there's no reason for it to get the extra critical threat range. If you want to play this character as like a Fatesinger or a Legendary Dreadnought, that's probably where you want to go with Tale of Sulamades for swapping it in for some of that extra damage. Both of those items are raid items, but they come from Project Nemesis and Vision of Destruction, both raids which are not too difficult to overcome, even for like a pug group. On normal difficulty, you can run through it, somebody pulls it, and then they give it to you, or you just run it and you get enough runes. If you don't have those weapons, Tail of the Scorpion is a good option. It's probably the best option, actually. It would be Tail of the Scorpion, which comes from Toxic Treatment, the last quest in the Age of Rage chain. Although it doesn't drop all the time, it's a pretty good weapon as well. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have for the character. It was really fun to play, and I enjoyed it. As I said in the preamble, I just got stressed because the one thing that you've noticed, I never talked about healing. This character can't heal. I talked about healing with Divine Crusader, but I don't play as that. There's no healing in this character. So when I start taking damage, I just get like stressed. I can't repair my character's health. I can't do anything. And the idea that my health is just going to continually leak down and leak down and leak down, and then I get stuck while having absolutely no way to, you know, kind of continue to bump up my character, that stressed me out and gave me some problems. And so I just found, like, literally I didn't want to play the video game because I was so worried that if I didn't have friends to play with, like I opened a group and no one was there to like do the healing, then I would not have the healing be done. So like I could bring a hireling or whatever, but I don't know. It got into my head too much, and so I'm leaving this character behind. This is a me problem, not a problem with the character class. There are lots of characters that don't have this problem. For example, my rogue also doesn't heal itself either, but I find the character very fun to play because the stealth aspect gives me this like air of survivability, whereas this character, it has a good amount of damage absorption, but you just run out of health, and that's where either playing as a shifter can help, because shifters allow you to rage, and using access of the Blood Feast filigree get temporary hit points, which is very, very powerful, or having friends. Now, this character does an undeniable, very high amount of damage, so is it worth it not being able to heal yourself? I don't know. But that will be a decision I'll let you guys make for yourselves. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. So if you liked the video, please subscribe, because do it. And also, yeah, we're going to have more videos in the future. Soon we're going to be talking about the Artificer and the Maverick Hunter build in a revamp. So I'm excited to show that off to you guys. But that's not what we're doing today. I have to go do something. So I'll be gone. Thank you for watching. See you later. Au revoir.